Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is easily the weakest out of the original seven books, but still very much enjoyable. I enjoyed sitting down listening to this adventure story all over again from start to finish. Like the new characters, the new ideas, the new concepts, the family dynamics of the Weasleys, the expanded culture and history of Hogwarts, the entire core plot itself. Generally speaking, it's all very well done, very entertaining, but compared to the rest of the books, which are like legitimately some of my favorite things of all time, like Chamber of Secrets noticeably lack is noticeably lackluster in a lot of really key areas, and I think it's suffering a little bit from a sophomore syndrome, if that's how you put it, where it feels like following the success of the first book, Joe was interested in setting up the following books, but that sort of came at the expense of this book in general. Like it's a lot like the problems that the cinematic universe problem, right? The One Piece problem. That was the other example I was going to use. You're so busy setting up stuff that's going to happen like 200 chapters later, you kind of forget to make your core plot unique and interesting. And I think that's kind of where Chamber of Secrets falls because it is undeniably an extremely creepy novel with the idea of this monster stalking the school grounds, like attacking students of a specific heritage. Like that's like freaky as fuck. And like Harry being caught up in this in a very interesting, unique way, where people believe he might be the culprit. It's just this very unique kind of horror aimed at children that I just very, very much enjoy. It's really well done, undeniably creepy as fuck, and just the core conflict between Harry, the staff, the people around him. It's just this very, very magical experience of just listening to this. It's really, really well done, but it's one of those mysteries, right? This is the thing. It's one of those mysteries where they're trying, where the writer is trying so hard to hide who did it that it becomes a little bit convoluted and a little bit like nonsensical. And like it's all explained in later books. It's not like it's a plot hole or anything like that. But reading this book, coming back to this book, I'm like shocked at how little screen time Ginny Weasley actually has in this because like she really does just feel like a background character and that's it. And like the explanation as to like how she opened the Chamber of Secrets, how she got the power to do so, what made her do it. It's all convoluted and I almost want to say lazy. Like when you compare like the elaborate bullshit of like the Prisoner of Azkaban and like the Goblet of Fire finales, the climax to that, like this just seems like a lazy cop out. Like Voldemort did it. Was there any? I guess like there's no real speculation among the students that like Voldemort himself is responsible for this, which kind of surprised me. It kind of comes out of nowhere that like it was Voldemort being the heir of Slytherin who opened it 50 years ago, who is sort of possessing this girl to do it for him on his behalf as like 50 years later. It's an interesting concept. It feels almost it feels like it just wasn't executed as well as it should have been, right? Like Ginny. Here's the thing with the mystery. Like if Ginny had more screen time, it would have been obvious she had done it, right? Like if Ginny was more heavily involved in the plot, like it would have been really obvious to the readers that she was involved somehow. So Joe instead opts to have like uh, act as if the characters think she's just like horrified by what's going on around her, when that's really not exactly right. Like she is horrified at what she's doing, but it's just like, but like as a result of that, because she's not like involved very much, like it comes off as kind of half-assed when like it turns out like, ooh, she was the kidnap. She's the one who is responsible for this. And she was possessed by Lord Voldemort. It just feels almost like it comes out of nowhere, right? Like it almost feels like a lot of this, like Harry finding the diary, learning how to write it, learning how to use it, like meeting with Voldemort, like speaking with Tom, like Tom somehow. Uh, Ginny breaking in and stealing the diary back. It just all of it just comes off as really, really, really contrived, especially the fact that no one actually dies in this. Like, it's bizarre to me that Harry Potter eventually grew this reputation for like being really, really willing to kill off its characters when like the most deadly situation in the entire franchise, where you're going up against a monster that can kill you just by looking at you. That's the one where no one actually dies. Like the only person that we know of that has died to the basilisk, a creature that can kill people simply by looking at it, is Moaning Myrtle. Like I have no idea how this is possible, but apparently like the basilisk gaze can't work through cameras. It can't look through seeing through ghosts. It can't work while looking if you're looking at it through a reflection. It's just holy shit, dude. Like this must be the most incompetent, immortal, like killing machine on the face of the planet. Like imagine if Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator had like a body count of like one in the future war, and then like he goes after Sarah Connor, and then he's just all like, I'm gonna get you, Sarah. And then he never actually comes close. Like that's the basilisk. It's just it wasn't really satisfied with just like petrifying people all the time. Like, is that what's on? Is that what Salazar asked it to do? We don't want to kill these people. We just want to send them back home. Like, it's just. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I have no idea. Oof. Uh, so like the resolution to me seems kind of half-assed. Like I still don't actually know how the fuck pipes is the reason why it's able to get around. Like what's that supposed to mean? Is that supposed to imply that like the Chamber of Secrets is like underground? Is it literally like somehow going through? I don't get how this thing can go around the school and not be seen. That makes no sense to me. Like they don't properly explain it, and I still don't understand it. It's just like it would be seen eventually, right? Like the explanation they just sort of give is like, oh, pipes. Like that explains it. It's just, uh, it's so ridiculous, right? And oof. Like Dumbledore really can't figure this out. He's like the most brilliant wizard, the most genius wizard of like the past, you know, century or whatever, and he can't seem to figure out like something that Hermione, a 12-year-old girl in her spare time, was able to figure out. Like, oh, it's a basilisk. Just is Hermione smarter than Dumbledore? Is that what we're getting at here? Is Hermione that much of a super genius? This is kind of an irksome point for me, but like I really, really, really kind of dislike the worship Hermione gets in these books. Like I think she's a great character. I'm very fond of her, but I see her as being very, very, very deeply flawed. Similar to the way that like Ron is very, very deeply flawed, and that's not like a bad thing. Like everyone has their problems, right? But like the thing with Hermione is that like it always feels like she's perfect. Like the narrative wants to see her as being like perfect, and like fans sort of like treat her as such. Like seeing like new information about the books, like oh Hermione became Minister of Magic and ended magical slavery. It's just bullshit. Like that is not something you could finish. You could like change in like a generation. Okay, it's just they always tried. Joe always tries to put Hermione in like the best possible light. Like even when she's wrong about something, ooh, she was technically right. This will become more apparent in like later books, but yeah, this situation was just really probably the most obvious example so far. Like Hermione is probably at her best in book one because she has her flaws are more clearly defined. She's like downright antagonistic at first in a sort of degree. She feels like she has more of a personality. And like I'm more fond of that Hermione than the glamorized like Emma Watson style, like oh Hermione's the real hero of the story. Like uh, narrative here. I am not like too in love with Hermione. Like this is like probably the most popular character in the series, and I'm shitting on her, but that's just my feelings on it. Man, yeah, yeah. So Hermione, oof. There's just so much in this novel. It reminds me a little bit of how the Cormoran Strike novels feel, actually, where it feels like a lot of the core aspects are kind of half-assed. A lot of the core aspects in the story are like kind of half-assed in order to push a new narrative, like in order to push foreshadow stuff that's going to come later, right? Like that's my feeling on that. Like you can tell these novels are written by the same person, but Chamber of Secrets, it's still enjoyable. Like in spite of all of that, like I still enjoy a lot of the new characters. They like introduce some more of the teachers. Like we get introduced to the new Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, Gilderoy Lockhart, who is admittedly the least interesting of the six. Like I'm gonna have to be real here. Is that Gilderoy Lockhart like doesn't really do anything. His entire gimmick is that like he's obnoxious as fuck, and he does that really, 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 really well. And it's kind of amazing how Hermione has a crush on him and is like blind to his faults. And it's kind of an interesting thing that Ron is the one to call him out on his shit, like more than any of them. It's it's interesting. I find it engaging, and the resolution to it is it's kind of pathetic. Like Lockhart, he doesn't really have anything to do with the overall plot, right? He's just sort of there. Like unlike the other Defense Against the Dark teachers, he's sort of just again, it's like the rest of the novel. He's just a placeholder for what's going to come later, right? So that's kind of disappointing, but in a sort of in a way, much like the novel itself, it's kind of necessary because you kind of need to set up this stereotype that like the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher is gone by the end of the year. You sort of have to establish like who Voldemort is. You sort of have to establish like what his mindset is, what his philosophy is, like what his followers believe. We learn a lot more about Draco and his family in this one. Like we have snippets of it in the original, but this one is where it becomes a bit more defined, and that's where the novel's problems kind of. I guess this is the novel's problems in a nutshell. Is that like it's either building off what the last one did, or it's setting up what's coming later. It doesn't have enough of its own identity. I think if it had more new characters, focused more on like have more suspects, had more going on, a little bit longer, right? Like this is about the length of the first book. When I think with a project this ambitious, you probably should have it be a little bit longer. Um, if it just needed a little bit more polish, and then it could have been phenomenal. But as it stands, it is my least favorite Harry Potter book. Still very, very enjoyable, and I will be coming back to it like I always do. Like it's still like one of my favorite book series of all time. Of course, I'm going to read the second one, but it does not hold a candle to what's about to come in what was once my all-time favorite Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, coming soon. I cannot wait.